Shut up and sit down.
Hey, I'm Simon.
I'm Ellie.
And if you like our videos, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, hit that bell thing. That would be very, very kind of you indeed. And as usual tonight, we are surprising each other with movie trailers that the other person has not yet seen.
So what do we have next?
Well, next up, we have a really interesting premise for a movie that just had me hooked enough that I had to check it out. I've not seen this one either, but it's based on a true story about a man who defied the British Empire and tried to end slavery and headhunting in the country of Borneo. And it was such an astounding true story that it inspired Rudyard Kipling's story, The Man Who Would Be King.
Whoa.
As well as a bunch of other cultural phenomenon that kind of came from this. And yet I had never heard of this story, so I am fascinated to check it out. We're going to check out the trailer now. I will say no more about who's in it or what happens, but we're going to check out the trailer. Stick around until the end and we'll let you know what we think. But for now,
let's go.
Let's check it out.
The other side of the world. I wonder if I've gone far enough. Perhaps it's as my father said, no matter how far you run, you can never escape yourself.
You come on behalf of England.
We are on a voyage of discovery, not conquest. God, this is paradise.
Why do I feel myself sucked deeper and deeper upriver? But I do not resist. For here I am a stranger.
Hey!
Even to myself.
Unknown raiders. Pirates.
I wouldn't go in there alone.
You understand your vessel has many cannons, Lord Brooke.
We all like to see these cannons.
There's more going on here than meets the eye.
You can't run from this, James.
To have peace, we must make war.
Whoa.
This is war!
You could be a king.
I was given a sword to rule a kingdom larger than England, but I've had enough of killing. I've been living in a fantasy of my own making. To rule the jungle, I must love the jungle. All of it. The beauty and the blood.
Whoa. So, we just watched the trailer for Edge of the World, which apparently you can own in June, which is not long away at all. Telling the story of Lord Brooke, who ends up in Borneo on a quest for knowledge and discovery, not oppression like the rest of the British Empire were at the time. And looks like he's kind of chosen to lead the people of Borneo and be their salvation against headhunters and pirates. You know, it looks pretty interesting to me. What did you think of the trailer?
I like how complicated it shows things, like that he went on a voyage of discovery, not conquest. And yet it seems like he encountered these warring tribes and was hoping just to be an observer, but ends up being a participant, and they find out he's got cannons, and then the cannons end up being part of the warring tribes, which obviously gives some an advantage. And I kind of like how complicated that is, that you can't just go and discover, that you're bringing what you brought with you, that you can't just be an observer. And I kind of like that it's showing that you can't just visit places. You're bringing yourself to those places and changing them.
Yeah, exactly. You can't observe something without changing it. Yeah, and you know, this has been kind of really on my mind as we've been exploring Indian cinema, and especially, like, I love historical movies, But when you look at Indian historical movies, a lot of them are about the oppression of the British Empire and the British Raj, and who did some horrifying things. And, you know, even when you look at some of the more modern day movies, the conflict between India and Pakistan is largely because of an arbitrary border put there by the British Empire. Even we covered a movie the other day about the opioid epidemic, and one of our viewers, Chris Boskery, reminded me that, you know, the opioid crisis really began in India, where the British Raj were actually trying to get Chinese people addicted to opium, and they were using Indian people as slaves to create opium to addict Chinese people to. And when the Chinese resisted this opium that was being flooded into their country, the British Raj sent Indian troops in there to fight them. And it's like, you know, there's so much that was done that was just terrible by the British Empire back then, but still the repercussions of it today. So I actually love this story being a Western telling of somebody who broke from that, who said, you know what, I'm not going to carry on those terrible things that have been happening, and I'm going to do what I believe is right for the people. Whether or not it ends up being what was best for the people of Borneo, I guess you have to watch the movie to find out.
So would you say that this movie is visually stunning?
Yeah, actually, yes. I mean, clearly. And you know me, I love sweeping vistas and landscapes and scenery.
You do love a sweeping vista.
There was so much of that. And like when you've been locked in a house for the last year, not able to go anywhere, seeing, and this was filmed, this was actually filmed in Malaysia. And I've never been to Malaysia. I've always wanted to. But seeing that scenery just makes me want to go even more. I also am a real sucker for historical ships, like that kind of long ship, galleon type of ship. And, you know, that was there in the beginning. You had the bay where they were kind of coming out. I love the concept as well, which is kind of gone from us today, of, you know, getting on a boat, not knowing where you're going to end up, and having people who you have no common language with, like, and I mean, I'm assuming in this case, you know, the people must have had a common language, but I've always just found that fascinating, the idea of, you know, somebody getting on a ship, going on a voyage of discovery, winding up on a foreign land, and literally having zero in common with the people that they're meeting, who, you know, have a different skin color and different language and different tribal customs, and are just so alien that it would be like us meeting a Martian and trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And like the level of risk involved in that, you know, you screw something up and that Martian's got a ray gun, and or that person's got bows and arrows and spears and various explosives and poisons and things.
And I really liked how that was illustrated in this trailer by he's kind of like exploring this lush jungle, he's going up this river, he sees these exotic people, they're hanging out, they're doing dances, there's like nice ladies that he's looking at, and then they're like, oh hey, I'm really enjoying exploring this river, so I'm going to keep going, and I just feel compelled to keep exploring this river. And he's just kind of exploring, and oh, this is a voyage of discovery. And then suddenly they like enter that clearing and there's a headless body.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh wait,
farts.
This isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And I like it that it really hits home of, well, I'm just exploring, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this is something that I wasn't expecting, because you can't control everything.
Yeah, and I've always longed to go exploring in that part of the world. We went to a talk years and years ago about an exploration team who had been looking for a new species of orangutan in Sumatra, in the Sumatran rainforest. And literally, after weeks and weeks of looking, all they found was a hair sample. But that hair sample seemed to not be from traditional species of orangutan. So there were these kind of Bigfoot-style legends that they were following, and they surmised that it was probably just a different type of primate that hadn't been recorded yet. But like their stories of, you know, that you can only take so much food in there with you, so they ended up having to hunt monkeys, like spider monkeys, to have in their stew and things. And like, as much as that seems like a hardship, there's something in my mind as being kind of very romantic and kind of pushing boundaries of going through an adventure like that has really always appealed to me. So any kind of adventure story like this, I'm all in. Yeah, is this the kind of movie you would watch? Would you
Definitely.
give Edge of the World a try? Yeah.
The cast looks incredible as well, so that I'm all on board for that too.
Yeah, you got a Hobbit in the cast. I mean, come on. Dominic Monaghan, we loved on it was called the Wild or something.
Is it like Dom Goes Wild?
Yeah, something like that, where he would go along. And what I loved was he would just kind of hang out with animals, and he wasn't like too grabby, but he did like snakes and crocodiles and things, and he would just hang out with them and then say, "Hey, thanks for hanging out with me," and then move along. He just seemed,
his catchphase is "Be curious," and he's got like a backpack full of stickers all the time, and he would just put like "Be curious" stickers everywhere. He's such a fun follow on Instagram as well. He just seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, well, there you go. Just check out Dominic Monaghan on Instagram. We'll put the link in the description down there.
And hashtag Be Curious.
And hashtag Be Curious indeed. Well, we hope you guys are going to continue being curious, because that's all we've got for you. And as you know, we're going to be curious ourselves, and we'll probably be back tomorrow with something else, because there is always something to check out when you are on the Nerd Safari. So we'll see you next time, friends, on the next Dork Trailer Ambush.
Peace out, explorers.
Be curious.
Shut up and sit down.